In this video, I'm going to show you how to composite your pictures in unrealistic backgrounds. So let's get started. Hey, what's up guys, Roll here, and as you can see, this is the final output. Now if we look at the layer panel, as you can see, there's a lot of stuff going on. We will be working on shadows, lighting, color correction, and everything. So for the background, I will be using this photo, and for the model, this is the picture. Actually, the original photo is like this, and I had to spend like more than 15 to 20 minutes to cut out it with pen tool, because other tools just did not work, because the lighting and contrast is not very good in the photo, and the resolution is also very And reason why I had to use this photo is because it's really difficult to find pictures of people simply laying on ground and that are taken from, from top angle, from bird's eye view. So as you can see, to composite a photo here, you have to make sure that the model you select also matches the perspective of the photo. So for example, if you select a photo like this or this, no matter how hard you try with shadows and lighting, it will just not work. So I had to go with this photo, and also I restricted myself to use only the pictures that are free to use, so that all the followers can practice. So if you want to use any of these pictures, the download link is in description, and I will check if I have permission to repost this picture on DeviantArt as a PNG file. I will post it. But if I cannot, you will have to use pen tool. So that's it. Now let's look at the original photo. Now I don't need the entire picture. I'm gonna crop out certain portion of it. It's completely based on instinct, so don't bother too much. If you like it a little bit bigger, keep it. I think this looks good. Maybe a little bit more. Actually, I try to remember the parts where I cropped, so I can recreate it as close as possible. So this looks good. Confirm it. The background is ready, and also it's a little bit too saturated, so I'm gonna reduce the colors. Go to your adjustments, hue saturation, and make it somewhere around like -20, 25. Looks good. Close it. Now I'm gonna add in the model. So for that, select your move tool from here, take this thing out, and then I'm just gonna simply drop the model here. And then we don't need this file anymore, so I'm gonna close it. No. Okay, so here's the model. I'm gonna flip it. So for that, press Ctrl T, right click, and flip horizontal, and then I'm gonna rotate it a little bit, and also gonna make her a bit smaller because it's way too big than I need. So this exact portion where resize it again and again and rotate it to see if she fits or not, it will take a lot of time, a lot more than you expect. So spend as much time as you can, because this is everything. If the perspective doesn't set properly, all the work you do after it will just go to waste. So I'm gonna go and if you think that you will have a better idea about perspective after you have done shadows and lighting, you can actually do it. We will group things later, and you can move her around anytime you want, so don't stress too much also. So I think this looks alright. So at the moment, she kind of looks she's sleeping on the floor, but because we don't have any shadows, it looks like she's floating, So to fix that, first of all, I'm gonna add contact shadow. We will be adding two shadows, by the way, contact and cast shadow. So we'll start with the contact, and just as the name says, it will be the portion where she contacts the ground. So get a brush tool, create a new blank layer, and the shadow should be under the model. So I'm gonna put it down here and just rename it contact shadow. Okay, and I'm gonna select my brush tool. The color should be black. Actually, you know what, I advise that you don't go pure black, because there are I'm going for really kind of hazy output. So for this, I think not having pure black shadows will help me. So a light touch of gray and hit OK. Now I'm gonna go and start painting. Now for the brush hardness, try to keep it somewhere around 40-50%. We will blur it afterwards as well. So 50% something is good, and the opacity, I think right now keep it 100, because we can always reduce opacity of the layer, so you don't have to worry too much. I'm gonna go and start with the hair here. So as you can see, it will not be perfect in the first try. First you just trace things near like this, as you can see here, and then you try to refine it again and again for your exact needs. And also, as you can see, the cutout of the hair, it's not properly done yet. So you know what, we can go and try to fix it first. So right click here and then select and mask, and I'm just gonna go and try to do the shortcut and see if it works. So let's not do anything and simply just paint around the edges and see if it gives us any proper output. Okay, it's kind of doable, not the best thing in the world, but for tutorial I think we can do it. Yes, I think this looks fine, and a little bit more here as well. You know what, for these things, first of all hit OK. So as you can see, there are some patches that I would like to remove, and for that I'm gonna go to my brush tool and make sure I have black color, and then just erase it a little bit. Paint on layer mask, okay, not on the model, or otherwise you will kind of ruin it. So take your time with the hair and like spend a lot of time in refine mask as well. So let's go back to the shadows, contact shadow. So here we were, and now as you can see, now it doesn't look that good. So you will be switching between two things again and again, brush and the eraser. So try to use shortcuts. So first of all, I'm gonna press E for my eraser, right click, make sure hardness is 0%, and to make it bigger, use your bracket keys. See? And also make sure your caps lock is not turned on, otherwise you won't be able to see the circle. So turn off your caps lock, and now you're good to go. And the benefit of this is that it makes the process way easier and saves you truckload of time. So I'm gonna go and paint things near the edge, and you can also move it around as well. So it looks kind of scary when you have to do it especially with mouse, but kind of doable. So I did the outline. Now let's look at the after before. So this is without the shadow and this is with the shadow. Now it will depend on your image. The next thing that I'm about to do is we are going to blur it so it fades in a little bit more. But it kind of depends on your lighting. If the lighting is a little too harsh, then you won't have to blur it. It depends on the photo. So filter, blur, and Gaussian blur. I'm gonna blur it, but not too much, because if you blur it too much, it kind of makes it look like she is almost floating on the ground, and we don't want that. So I'm gonna keep it somewhere around like 2 pixels. That seems fine. Hit OK. Now you will have to move it around a little bit to see which like at where it fits properly. So I'm gonna bring it out a little bit to see. Now if it's difficult to move it with your mouse, just make sure you have selected the move tool and then use your arrow keys to put it exactly where you need it, according to your lighting. So I think here it should be fine, because the photo, we will see the photo from distance, so it has to be noticeable. So at here it looks kind of fine, I guess. Let's go and move it out a little bit more. And okay, so I think now this looks a lot better. And of course, like if you take the eraser tool and pinpoint, like pixel by pixel fix everything, it will look much better. So the contact shadows are done. Now here comes a little bit more complicated part, the cast shadows. Now contact was easy because all we had to do was trace the model. Now in the cast shadow, let's rename the layer, cast shadow. Now in the cast shadow, you will actually have to judge like how far the shadow will go. And it also depends like how hard or how soft the shadow will be according to where the sun is. Now I'm gonna be honest, I'm not lighting expert, so I kind of went by the instinct, and as you can see there's also shadows in this trees here, so I like took a little bit inspiration from there as well. So study your image and maybe try to look for references online. It will give you more idea on how to create shadows properly. So this one is I'm gonna go and reduce the opacity a lot, like because we will be repainting it again and again. So first of all, I'm gonna keep it somewhere around like 60%, and also make sure that the hardness is like 0%, because I'm going for pretty soft shadows here. So first of all, I'm gonna go and paint it around here like this. And as you can see, she looks a little bit floating. That's because the edges are darker than this portion here. So I'm gonna go and add in more shadows here. The closer the shadow gets, the darker it should be. So it will look less and less like she's floating. You understand? And in case you overdo it, actually I advise that you overdo it first and then you reduce the opacity of layer. So that way you have a lot more control over, and it also makes job a little bit easier. So I'm gonna go and make it darker near the edges, like this. Now when you paint a little bit too far away for the shadows, I recommend that you reduce the opacity even more, maybe half of what you were using, and then paint a little bit here to give it, a bit more darkness, but still make sure that it's not darker than the edges here, right? So I'm gonna go and paint more here. So now it's way too dark than we need. So I'm gonna go and start reducing the opacity until it blends in properly. So somewhere around like 70-80%. Okay, so this looks nice at maybe 70%. Okay, so the edges, they look better at 70, but when we get close to the model, I think we need to add a little bit more. So I'm gonna go and increase the opacity so I don't have to repeat my strokes again and again. So I'm gonna go and so I think somewhere around here should be all right. It's not the best thing in the world, but as you can see, without the shadows and with the shadows, she's a lot more grounded. And also you can increase the opacity if you want more dark, but I think this is good enough. Now one last shadow that will be on top of model. You see, I'm planning on keeping sun somewhere around here. Now I'm gonna go and create new layer on top of the model, and then right click here and create a clipping mask. So now whatever I paint on this layer will only stay on the model. I'm gonna go and make the opacity 100% and show you an example. You see, now whatever I paint will stay here, and this is exactly what we need. Now of course opacity keeping 100 is ridiculous, so I'm gonna keep it somewhere around like 40-50%. Go near and then paint on the edge like this. Now it's little too strong, as you can see here, so I'm gonna go to my opacity here on the layer and then keep it somewhere like 50%. So I think this looks kind of average. I mean, let's be honest, it is what it is. So I think we can start working on the colors and lighting. So again, for the last time, this is without the shadows and this is with the shadows. So this way you can paint shadows and keep the model on the ground. That's done. Now let's go and do some correction on the model first, and then we will do some correction that will be applicable on both model and the background. So for the model, I'm gonna just keep on stacking the layers now. So go to your adjustment layer, and first of all, I'm gonna go and select curves. Now model is really dark, especially compared to the background. The lighting is not very good. So first of all, you can click here to turn on clipping mask, and then I'm gonna make it brighter, somewhere around here. Now, see, here's the problem. Face looks fine, hands all right, legs not at all. So to fix it, focus on the darkest portion that looks good. So face. I'm gonna go and keep it somewhere around here. Okay, this looks good. Then go and close it. Now for the legs, you can use your brush tool. Now activate the layer mask, and in the opacity somewhere like 30-40%. That's good, and the color should be black. Then go and start removing it from the legs, as you can see. So it gives you a lot more control where the lighting should be, like how much lighting should be in certain body part. So I think now this looks a lot better. I'm gonna make it slightly more darker, and you can always come back here on this layer anytime and paint again and again, you know. So maybe a little bit from here as well. It's a little too bright, and here as well. So this is without the brush adjustment, and this is with the brush adjustment. As you can see, makes the difference of day and night. So a little bit here. I'm trying to keep it as neutral as possible, but the lighting and colors, they are terrible. As you can see, legs are blue, the face is red, there is yellow light from the top. I'm still really happy that they uploaded this photo though, because it's difficult to find this type of pictures. And also it's free, so not much to complain. Okay, so this is before and after for the brightness. I'm gonna go and make it a little too bright and close it. Okay, much better. Now another problem we have with the model is that the color of dress is way too saturated compared to background. So to fix that, I'm gonna go to my adjustments and select hue and saturation, and then I'm gonna turn on clipping mask. See, here's how logic behind clipping mask. As long as you keep on stacking clipping mask on top of each other, it will keep following the model. Just don't add another layer in between, and it will work completely fine. Okay, so I'm gonna go to my adjustment layer here and then reduce the saturation. Now also I know that it's kind of removing saturation from the skin as well, and I do not want that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mask out the legs and face again, and also a little bit from hands. So just like the levels, I'm gonna go and erase it from the legs, and this time I'm gonna increase the opacity because I don't want effect at all. So I think this looks fine, and also from the face as well, because I need some color on the face, you know, makes her look more lively. And then from the here as well. And if you make a mistake, you can change to white color and then fix it. I'm gonna go and have some black and white effect here, so you know, because this portion is little too yellow compared to rest of the skin. So I'm gonna make it slightly more black and white so it can blend in better. To the beginners watching, are you alright? Because it's way too complicated, I know, compared to regular videos. I'm gonna go and look at the after before. See, now the model blends in a lot better. So this is without the adjustments so far, and this is with the adjustment. You see, step by step we get closer. So the brightness and color of the dress, they both are fixed. Now we can focus on the skin colors. As you can see, they do not match with the background at all. So to fix that, go to your adjustments and select a selective colors, and again turn on the clipping mask so it will only stay on the model. Now first of all, I'm gonna go to my whites, and here I'm gonna add bunch of yellow. So let's go and add somewhere around like 18% looks good. After that, go to your neutrals, and here also I'm gonna add some yellow. So 8 or 10% looks good. And then go to your blacks. In black, I'm gonna add plus 3 to 4 point of yellow, and then I'm gonna actually reduce the blacks inside the blacks, so basically the shadows. And then I'm gonna go and make it somewhere like minus 10 to 12%, so 11% looks good. Then go and close it. So now as you can see, this is without the adjustment and this is with the adjustment. Look at the skin, without and with. We're gonna make it even better. Okay, now I'm gonna use curves and add slight yellow tint on entire model photo. So go to your adjustment layer and then select, where is it, curves, and in the curves go to your blues, and in the blues, go and add a little bit of yellow from this corner. Now of course we forgot to turn on clipping mask, so turn on the clipping mask and now it will only affect the model. So I'm gonna go and keep it somewhere around here, not too much, okay? So keep it here, looks good. Now another problem we have is that the yellow is kind of a little too strong on the hand. On other places it looks good. So I'm gonna go and mask it out. Select my brush tool, select black color because I want to remove it. But I don't want it completely gone, so I'm gonna keep the opacity like 40, 45, and then I will remove it. So now let's zoom in and look at the colors before and after. So the skin here, focus. So this is without the color adjustments, and this is with the color adjustment. As you can see, now the photo blends in a lot better. So till now, whatever color correction we did was separate for model and background. And from now on, whatever we do in color correction will be applicable to both of them. So before we do that, I'm gonna go and group the model. So select the top curves layer, then hold your shift key and click on this cast shadow. So this is everything we did on model. Then press Ctrl G. So it will turn it into a group. Then double click here and rename it model. Now benefit of grouping is that now you can just simply press Ctrl T and move her around anywhere on the photo you like. So of course it looks terrible, so I'm gonna press Ctrl Z. Okay, now let's do the color correction on entire picture. And for that, go to your adjustment layer, and first of all I'm gonna start with the levels. So first of all I'm gonna add in a little bit contrast, and for that go to your, make sure you are in RGB, and then drag the mid slider on the right. So keep it somewhere around maybe 50-60%. Okay, so 60% looks kind of fine. So I know at the moment it looks really dark, but as we move forward it will look better. So the midtones are done. Now in the highlights, go and increase it a little bit. So keep it somewhere around like 220 or something like that. Okay, so this looks good. And now I'm gonna go and change the output levels. In the output level, I'm gonna keep it somewhere around, 16, 17 looks good. So 17 it is. So as you can see, now it's already looking better. Now I'm gonna go to my blues, and first of all I'm gonna go and adjust the mid. So I'm gonna go and keep it somewhere like 1.6, 1.7. So 1.7 looks good. It just gives overall image slightly bluish color, because everything has become a little too yellow. So that's done. And now into the output levels, I'm gonna keep this one to somewhere around like 10 to 14%. And then I'm gonna go and also adjust this one as well. Keep it somewhere around like 230 to 34. So I think 235 is good. Now I'm gonna go and close it. So as you can see, this is without the levels and this is with the levels. It gives it a really good color grading and contrast. Now I'm gonna apply another adjustment layer. So for that, go to your adjustment and select a selective color. And here, make sure you are in your blacks. In the black, first of all, yellow. And here I'm gonna take a little bit of it away. So we have a bit of split tone in colors and gives it, more dynamic feel. And then I'm gonna go to my blacks and make it somewhere like 2 to 4 point. So we have even more, darker shadows. Now go and close it. And for the final adjustment, I'm gonna go to my layers here and then select vibrance. And in the vibrance, it's completely up to you, like how colorful you want the final photo to be. So I recommend somewhere around like 20 to 40%. So I think 25 looks good. Then close it. Now as you can see, after we did all the color correction and adjustment, the shadows are actually a bit too much, and you will only know it after you have finished the effect. And this is the reason why we do everything on separate layers. So now we can go back and fix the shadows. So first of all, I'm gonna go to my cast shadow, and I think the opacity is little too much, while before we thought it wasn't enough. So this kind of things will happen when you work on project like this. So I'm gonna go and keep it somewhere around like maybe 60%. Yeah, that looks nice. And also in the contact shadow, I think it's a little too dark. So I'm gonna keep its opacity to somewhere around like 70-80%. And another thing, as you can see, the context shadow is little too sharp. So for that, again, I'm gonna go to filter, blur, and then go to Gaussian blur. In the Gaussian blur, don't look at the number, actually focus here. So look at how softer you want the shadow to be. So I think somewhere around 4 to 5 pixel should be good enough. Then close it. And also I'm gonna readjust it using my move tool. So select your move tool and then press arrow keys to keep it exactly where you need it, you know. So I think this looks nice. And also opacity is still a little too high, so I'm gonna keep it somewhere like 60% or like that. Now zoom out and take a look again, like how much do you need. And also I think that the contrast is little too much, so I'm gonna go to my levels, double click here, and I think it's a little too much here, so I'm gonna go and take it away, you know, slide, maybe. Okay, so this looks better. And also I'm gonna add a bit more haziness using this. Now it's completely up to you. The adjustment you do from now on, it's kind of like what you like. It's up to your taste. Okay, so the final effect is kind of ready, and now I'm gonna add in the lens flare. Now lens flares are kind of optional. You can use it only if you want, but I like the hazy feeling they give to the photo. So I'm gonna go and create new blank layer first of all on top of everything. Then I'm gonna go and make sure that here I have actual proper black color. Okay, now I'm gonna fill in the color. So for that, right click here and select your paint bucket, fill it, we have black color. After that, go to your filter, render, and then go and select lens flare. And in the lens flare, go and select the third one because it's the least complicated and it's the most easy to, you know, blend in. So select the third one, hit OK. I'm gonna keep it somewhere around here. Hit OK. Then go to your adjustments here and then change it to screen. And now you have sun that's little too close, might kill her. So keep it somewhere around here. Don't worry if you have to take it outside. Just follow your instinct. So here it looks good. And to give it slight yellow feeling, you can go to image, adjustment, and then hue saturation. And first of all, colorize it, and then increase the saturation. Okay, that's too much red. And also we need actually orangish, dull orange, okay, not too bright. So this looks good. So without the colorize, with the colorize, looks nice. Hit OK, and you can move it even more. And then I'm gonna duplicate this layer, press Ctrl J, press Ctrl T now, and then right click here. And then select flip vertical, so it's upside down. And then I will put this one here, but here I'm not actually using it as sunlight. I just want to add, you know, that little bit of hazy feeling, light licks or whatever you want to call it, that used to happen in old cameras a lot. So I want to replicate that a little bit. So maybe it is due to sun, I'm not sure. Yes, light licks will happen because of sun, wouldn't they? So basically this is my goal. I don't want to show a light source, I just want to show a little bit lighting on the edge. So I'm gonna go and keep it somewhere around. And you can also stretch it, you know, there are no rules, whatever fits your image. So I think now this looks a lot better, gives it, you know, that vintage feeling. And if it's too strong, you can always reduce the opacity. So I think somewhere like 80%. Actually on both, I'm gonna keep it somewhere like 80. So let's look at the after before, I mean in the sunlight. So this is without the lens flares and this is with the lens flare. I think the lens flare may get a lot better, like according to my personal taste. Keep adjusting things until they look like exactly the way you want. You know what, let's go and compare it with the original one. So this is the original one and this is the one we created. Actually, we are pretty close. I mean, not as good as this one, but we did pretty good for tutorial. So that's it, and this is the final output. And I really hope that you guys learned something from this video, and if you did, hit that like button. And if you have any kind of questions or suggestions, feel free to ask me in comment section below. So till then, goodbye, take care, and have some fun with Photoshop.